Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, and I'm here with Dr. Dan Schaefer. And Dr. Dan tells me he sells mistakes. What does that mean, Dr. Dan?
Well, it's very interesting. One of the things that happens with folks today is that they can't afford to make a mistake today. It becomes very, very costly. And so what I found is that if somebody wants to promote a product or promote an idea, it becomes important for them to put it in a way that somebody can internalize it. And so there's an invisible dynamic that works in everybody's life, and it's called short-term discomfort versus long-term regret. That's why when I talk to people about being in 2025, what I do with folks is take everybody out to 2025, and we look backwards from 2025 to now to say, where do you want to be and what's in your way? And the dynamic is called short-term discomfort versus long-term regret. We can take, your law firm. They may not want to deal with you right now, but what they don't want to be is in 2025 looking backwards, wishing they did. And that happens with a lot of people today, Elizabeth.
Oh, I believe it. I agree 100%. But you coach people, but you don't just talk to people. You have a number of different techniques that you use that are kind of, I don't want to give away the sauce, but they're kind of secret to what you do.
Yeah, right? One of the things that I find is that one of my challenges is that the people I work with keep me secret. And so I work very much under the radar with individuals, whether it's a professional athlete in football or a student athlete or somebody who's running a business. One of the things that's going on today is that people's competition are using strategies that we'll never, ever tell them about. And so I have a program that we talked about before we came on the air. It's called, 888 Fast Track. It's a way to get people to fast track to where they want to be and find out the challenges that they have and ways to overcome them before they confront them. See, most of the time, with the mistakes concept is that people today, everybody is talking about selling solutions. Well, if you buy the right mistakes, then you don't have to pay for the solutions because you don't have to make them. I remember being in your office when we worked together in the city, and guy came in and said to Richard that he would like to patent his product, but that he couldn't get a patent on it. And Richard said, well, who told you that? He said, well, somebody else told me. And it comes back down to the guy realized he could have gotten a patent on it. And that's when we played around with what I think the foundation of your law practice is. I said, I think you should all get T-shirts that say, don't talk to anybody. Because, at the end of the day, if you have an idea, you want to go to somebody and protect it before you put it out into the marketplace. And you could always be talking to the wrong person. So it's important that you get your ducks in order, particularly if you have something you worked a lifetime on to promote.
Right. I mean, we have heard stories about people who didn't think they had the money for a patent, so they didn't get it, and somebody else could patent it because they had the same idea, or could make it without a patent because there was no patent on it and the time period had elapsed, so nobody could ever get a patent on it, and made tons of money from their idea that if they had just not made that mistake.
Sure. I said to an attorney friend of mine, I said, give me a mistake that one of your clients made before they became your client and what it cost them in money, emotion, and reputation. He said, I have one right now. He said, I have a guy who 15 years ago started a partnership with his friend on a handshake. He says, and that handshake right now is going to cost him $350,000 to straighten out because he didn't do the paperwork when he needed to. And so people look at these costly mistakes. The point is I look at ways to help people to take what they do as a practice and put it into a very powerful psychological marketing strategy based on talking about selling mistakes. But it's not easy to tell somebody you sell mistakes.
No, nobody really wants to hear that.
But I will guarantee you one thing is if somebody says to you, Elizabeth, what do you guys do? Say, we sell mistakes. Nobody's walking away.
Well,
nobody's going to walk away from you.
That's,
They didn't ask you what you're talking about.
yeah, they want to find out more. So you help a lot of people. What you do is different, and I know you can't get into the details of it because you do, but you can help people take 2 to 3 strokes off their golf game.
Right. 3 to 6.
3 to 6, sorry.
Yes. Basically, and that's without touching a golf club. Basically, it doesn't involve a golf course. It doesn't involve, it makes a person take more golf lessons when they figure out the mental part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But just simply, if a person who's a golfer who's listened to this program, if they just take their golf ball and they write JTS on the golf ball, meaning just this shot, they play one shot at a time. But then there are other things. If the golf, and people can go on my website called golfandthemindgame.com, and it's all listed there. There's videos and all that. But the point is that, for somebody who really is serious about something, whether it's their business or marketing themselves, to go into a situation not prepared effectively or not preparing to compete, it's very interesting. I'm right now doing a lot of work with cybersecurity people. And, somebody said to me, well, I don't like competition. I don't feel like we're competing all the time. I said, well, if I owned a company and I was interviewing a person who was a cybersecurity expert who said they weren't competitive, I couldn't hire them, because the fact is they're competing all the time. Everybody has pressures in their business. But in working with these guys, and I do a program every Monday morning from Washington, we have about 1,200 people on the call. I say it feels like somebody is sitting under Niagara Falls, because the pressure never stops. It never stops. It never stops. So the attacks never stop.
Well, that's true. And in business, especially, I think what you're saying too is that if you're not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards. There is no standing still, right?
There isn't. But it's important to know that you're not moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to be in business today when you know you're in business. But when you're in business and you don't know you're in business, that's really comes dangerous. And that's what comes back to kids in school. I mean, I work with college athletes in all sports and professional. I mean, Chad Pennington wrote the foreword to my book, Click. So, I work with high-level performers and athletes. But again, it's playing really well and knowing what they're doing and knowing that they're really running a business. So somebody who has a student athlete as a kid, I work with them all the time, getting into college and how to navigate in college. But still, it's saying to somebody, if you realize that you are running a business, then every decision you make is a business decision. What you eat, what you drink, what you smoke, who takes your picture, what you put up on Facebook. So it's just, when a kid has his own business card, I mean, I have kids in 8th grade who are hockey players who have their own business card because they see themselves as business and they say, I'm working very hard on this. I'm not going to let somebody else foul up my dream.
Right.
And that's what, we talked about before we got on about 2025. Every one of my clients today is in 2025 working backwards. I only work backwards. I give you a magic wand, you wave it, and what does 2025 look like? And then you look backwards for anything you can do to foul that up. So on my website, I have some information about a process that I have to help people identify mistakes that they could make before they even make them.
So if somebody signs up to work with you, what is one of the first things that you'll do? I'm assuming you're doing everything remotely now, as we all are. So what's one of the first things you would do?
Fortunately, I always did it remotely because it didn't make any difference where somebody was. I would suggest that they do one or two. If they're looking at this 2025 plan that I have, they would fill out an assessment that would take them out to 2025 so that I can get a sense of what their dream is. And then I have a personality assessment, a risk assessment that shows a person every place that they can screw up, frankly, going forward. So when you have both of those things together, that when you get on the road, there's going to be yellow blinking lights and you know where to stop and where to be careful, where to watch out, what to watch out for.
So do you have some success stories that you can share?
Sure. On the golf, well, I'll tell you what, I'll combine one together. I had a guy call me up and say, I want to, he said, I want to knock my handicap down from 3 to scratch. Could you help me? And I said, yes. So I sent him all my survey material. He sent me a check. He said, could you see me in my office? I met him at his office. I had no idea who the guy was. I met him in his office in the city. And as we're walking through the office, he's going, you know, my golf swing, my golf swing, my golf swing. But when we got into the office, he pushes all the golf stuff off the desk and he says, you know, this is not about golf. He said, I'm in the middle of one of the biggest mergers and acquisitions going on in the country today. He said, and I've got 3 months to persuade 3 guys that I'm the guy to run this company. And so we put together a system where we would identify how he would have conversations with people, what he would emphasize in conversations, particular language that he would use in negotiations. And then he said to me, he said, I'm going to Italy for Christmas. I said, not before we go through all of this. He said, no, they're not going to call me. Well, just before he was leaving, they all came into his office and he was prepared. We went out to dinner. He thanked me. He said, I'm so happy I got the position. I said, do you know anybody in the same situation that you're in? He says, oh, I know plenty of people. I said, well, will you refer me? He says, no. He says, I can't tell anybody about you. And you know, I on the sports side, I have a woman in Jersey who's one of the country's top ultramarathon runners, and she became an MMA cage fighter, and she won her last fight after we worked over the phone with hypnosis for 3 weeks before the fight in 49 seconds. And the ring announcer said to her, what do you attribute your success to? She says, well, she said, I'm an ultra runner. I never get tired. You can't tire me out. You might beat me, you won't tire me out. But she said, you know, he said, and then she thanked everybody else, her trainer, her system and all. I said to her, I said, Jody, you didn't mention me. She says, do you think I'm giving your name to someone who's got to fight in 4 weeks? So it was not, so, you know, I understand that the people, sometimes I'll do seminars for large groups of people and people don't ask questions because they want to ask them privately. So that's why I encourage people to take my number, give me a call on the phone. And my question is fundamentally one question. What do you need to have happen right now that's not happening? Not, you know, and this is not to be mistaken at all for therapy. This is all personal strategy. Is somebody designed it or talked about it like street smart strategies for a competitive edge. Mm-hmm. And then I have a whole background of people, resource people, who I use to bring into the mix when it's necessary. I mean, I was at a conference in upstate New York, and I met a woman who's a trainer from Florida, and I hooked her up with Richard because she's got a dynamic product.
Oh, yes, I know her. She does, and she's a dynamo too.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. But again, you know, it's having somebody right there who you can refer to solve a particular problem. And I've had a lot of people who I've sent into Passage to Profit and said, you know, you have to want to talk to these guys.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you were on Passage to Profit on iHeartRadio yourself and were excellent. People loved your presentation and your counseling. So I know you're not a psychiatrist, but you do, I think, kind of business counseling in a way, because you do.
You're right. I have a doctorate in psychology, but I'm not a clinical psychologist. I don't do therapy. But the point is that I take psychology into the workplace. Mm-hmm. So figuring out who a person is, what they need to hear for an interview. I'll give you a funny example. I had a kid who was a hockey player. He was up at Yale. And he said to me, you know, I don't like the food they have on the training table. I like them to put some other different things on the training table. So I said to him, I said, why don't you go to the chef and tell him what you need? So he went to the chef and he said to the chef, he said, I have a problem. He said, I need this, 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 and this on the training table. And the chef said to him, well, I have a problem. So the kid says, what's his problem? He said, I can't get Yale hockey tickets. So he got Yale hockey tickets for him. So, you know, it's understanding how you can navigate and negotiate. But, you know, one of the things that we talk about is that people have blocks, obstacles that get in their way that are visible. Some of them are very visible, competition, people around, but others are not visible. Some of them are really invisible. So I had a guy who was a real estate developer in the city. And he said to me, you know, I'm a 12 handicap golfer. He said, I was talking to him about negotiations and contract negotiations. But he said to me, I'm a 12 handicap golfer, but I can't play well 50 yards in. I have a lot of trouble 50 yards in. So to make a very long story short, what we discovered after about 5 or 6 weeks was that the only time he can't play well is when he plays against somebody who makes more money than he does. The guy makes high 7 figures, but that was invisible. So there were a lot of, so somebody could have a wonderful process moving forward and make some mistakes and not look for the right thing. So I help them look at stuff that's different. You know what? I was telling you a story about this accounting firm I did a workshop for. I did a program for 40 of their partners, and their senior partner, who they said to me was a curmudgeon, would be sitting next to you the whole time. He said to me, so what are you going to do to help us grow our firm? I said, I'll tell you in a minute, but you'll never do it. Oh, yes, we will. Yes, we will. So he said, what do you suggest? I said, when I got off the elevator, the name of your firm was in big carved gold letters right over the reception desk. I said, if you get an orange prison jumpsuit and hang it right off those letters with a sign that says, we'll never let you put this on. He said, what, are you crazy? I said, see, I told you would never do it, but nobody will ever forget it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great. So you're taking clients now for coaching, right?
Yeah, three categories. One is people who want to get a personal competitive edge.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to move rapidly from where they are forward. They don't want to wait. They don't want to wait months and months and months. And this happens very, very quickly. But it's a whole system that comes together. Taking people who want to do that. I'm putting together groups of people for this 888 program so people can do that individually. Or if somebody has a company, they want to run 5 or 6 people through it or 10 people through it, we discount that. I'm working in family businesses with people who have their kids are in a business and they say, you know, I have been helping my kids and mentor them in their business, but, you know, I'd like somebody who could take them to another level without me having to do it. So that's what I'm doing. I've got one firm now. I just got 5 or 6 surveys back from people about what they need to have happen. But it's all about, Elizabeth, what their dream is. You know, people hire people for their skills and you know, but not always for their dream. I know there's a big emphasis now in Washington about focusing on skills. In addition to degrees, people need to get their skills, and that's particularly in cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm. So I think that you make an excellent coach, and I've talked to you a number of times and always been really impressed. So what is your website? How do people find you?
It's Dan Schaefer, PhD.com.
Can you spell that, please?
DANSCHAEFER, PhD.com. The 888, if somebody just types in on another Google 888 Fast Track, FASTTRACK, that comes up. And the other one is golfandthemindgame.com. People will love that. There's videos on it, there's tips on it, but the guarantee is always there. 3 to 6 strokes off your golf game without touching the club. Now, if you have a company and you want to attract CEOs of many other companies around you, not on a golf course, in your boardroom, or certainly now with Zoom, but in a restaurant, you know, basically we did a program for Xerox in Virginia where they wanted to get into a company to make sales and conduct business, and they couldn't get past gatekeepers. Well, we got 200 CEOs in 2 days to come into facilities with Xerox, but they had a promise that they're not going to sell anything or try to sell anything. There's a reverse marketing strategy. Mm-hmm. But basically it comes down to, if somebody puts, one of the most valuable things somebody can do, Elizabeth, is to put together a mistakes list that their clients made before they became their client, and what those mistakes cost them in money, emotion, or reputation. I know you and Richard could probably write a book on this, but money, emotion, and reputation. And then I help people to use that and make that into a tool both for themselves individually and for their sales teams and marketing teams. It's not sales training. It's totally psychologically designed.
Wow, amazing. Okay, well, thank you. I'm kind of out of time. Sorry.
Okay, good. No problem.